From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Fighting back against weed pressure.
And what impressed me was it didn't matter what I did, the See and Spray worked just like it's supposed to.
How one Illinois farmer says he's saving thousands of dollars as we continue our look at what's driving technology. Georgia was hit hard by Hurricane Helene, but how is the state's peanut crop faring? Days without much rain.
We're seeing sandbars starting to emerge.
How that's causing problems to grow when it comes to moving grain. Right now on AgDay.
AgDay is brought to you by Pioneer. Great performance in the field makes Pioneer brand corn #1 in America. For a winning season, it's Pioneer brand corn. Your best year starts here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Dryness and drought are continuing to expand across the country. Just issued drought monitor shows that parts of the Midwest and South have seen little to no rain in the last 30 days. Now here's a look at the latest map. Forecasters say the U.S. saw a huge expansion of drought for the second week in a row. They report every state in the Plains and Midwest saw drought conditions worsen except for Kentucky. Now parts of the West, South, and Southeast, along with the Northeast, also saw drought conditions get worse. Right now, 45% of the nation is in drought. That's up 6% from last week. 1 year ago, just under 40% of the nation was classified in drought. And the drought conditions are continuing to cause problems for the movement of grain on the Mississippi River. One company that supplies barges on the river said water levels from Cairo, Illinois, south continue to fall. And in Memphis, the river stage is also falling. And given that more dry weather is forecast, they report there will be more draft cuts coming. You can see the forecast for water levels in Memphis on this map. Drafts are the distance between the water line and the deepest point of the boat. Farm Policy News reporting each foot of draft that is cut means a barge's cargo must be cut by 200 tons. But lower water levels aren't just an issue on the Mississippi River.
We've seen the input declining from the Ohio, and we still have some decent inflow from the Missouri Valley, but some of our other tributaries of the Mississippi are critically low at this point. One that comes to mind is along the Illinois River, where there's about a 9-mile stretch along the Illinois where there is significant shoaling, meaning that we're seeing sandbars starting to emerge, and all transportation has been temporarily disrupted through that stretch of the Illinois.
Rippey says so far water levels on the Mississippi have not reached record lows, and while late summer and early fall are typically drier in the South, the low water levels for 3 years running do stand out. So is any rain on the way for the South and Midwest? We get an update from meteorologist Jack Van Meter.
Well, it looks like much of the country, unfortunately, still will not be getting that beneficial rainfall over the next at least 24 hours. And unfortunately, it's looking like the next week is still going to be dry. We are going to be seeing a nice slug of moisture in pretty much the four corner states. Actually, could be seeing a couple decent of those downpours and actually up through the northern part of the country as well. And as we can see, some of those thunderstorms actually going to be firing off of New Mexico, pretty close to the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. But take a look at that. Much of the Midwest stays fairly dry, and also a lot of the West Coast still going to be dry too, especially the South. Now, especially when we go up north is when we're going to be seeing our next system move into the country. And actually, that is going to be changing the landscape for a little bit for the weather this week. And it's great to see more harvest pictures. Blake in Earth, Texas, sharing this terrific photo as he got underway with cotton harvest. More in your forecast coming up.
Peanut harvest is approaching the 1/3 mark, but is well behind the 5-year average right now. Part of the reason may be because of the impacts of Hurricane Helene on Georgia, the #1 peanut producing state. Right now, only 27% of the peanuts have been harvested, far behind the 5-year average of 42%.
Fortunately, peanuts being underground, or at least the important part of the crop for harvest, and that does help to protect it from the hurricane effects to some degree. The vegetation above ground gets, again, ripped up pretty good by wind and rain, but if you can get back in the field fairly quickly and there's no significant flooding, which we did not see in the peanut production areas of Georgia, it can have a better outcome than for other crops such as cotton.
And prospects are still good for Georgia peanuts, with 52% of the crop rated good to excellent. That's just 1% behind the overall national crop rating. China is seeing some extreme weather of its own, which is threatening its corn harvest. Bloomberg reports China's corn production is set to decline by up to 7% due to heat waves and floods. It marks the largest slump since 2000. Despite the shortfall, lower demand along with ample stockpiles are expected to limit immediate price impacts, but it says future import needs could increase if economic stimulus efforts succeed. A nationwide recall of meat and poultry products potentially contaminated with listeria has now expanded. It now includes ready-to-eat meals sent to schools, restaurants, and major retailers. USDA has posted a 342-page list of hundreds of potentially affected foods, such as prepared salads and burritos sold at stores including Costco, Trader Joe's, Target, Walmart, and Kroger. The meat used in those products was processed at a Durant, Oklahoma manufacturing plant operated by Bruce Pack. No illnesses have been confirmed in connection with the recall. And 2 sustainable aviation fuel projects in the U.S. are getting a shot of cash. Gevo is getting a $1.46 billion conditional loan from the Department of Energy for its Net Zero 1 project in South Dakota. The facility is being built in Lake Preston. It will use 100% U.S. sourced feedstocks to produce 60 million gallons of SAF. NZ1 is reported to be the first ever large-scale alcohol-to-jet project to get this kind of funding, and the Department of Energy also approving conditional funding of up to $1.44 billion for Calumet. It's to support the expansion of its Great Falls, Montana facility. It utilizes vegetable oils, fats, and greases to produce biofuels. November beans fall below $10 on a day of mixed trade. We'll have details next in Markets Now. And later, the battle against weeds gets a hand from technology. We'll ride along as a farmer in Illinois goes to battle with water hemp in the country.
Scan now to register for the Milk Business Conference 2024. Early bird rate expires October 31st.
For the 14th straight month, the Rural Main Street Index sunk below growth neutral. The monthly survey of rural bankers from Creighton University coming in at 35.2 this month. That's the lowest reading since the beginning of the pandemic back in the spring of 2020. Head surveyor Ernie Goss says weak ag commodity prices, sinking ag equipment sales, along with increased input costs and falling farmland prices pushed the reading lower. More than 61% of bankers indicated the financial position of farmers in their area had deteriorated over the past 6 months. Now, one banker says even with above average yields on corn and soybeans this year, most local farmers will still cash flow at less than break-even prices. Despite another more than 7 million bushel of corn buy from Mexico and an almost 4 million bushel sale to unknown destinations, corn barely held steady on Thursday. AgDay's Michelle Rook has an update in Markets Now.
Grains closing higher on Thursday. Darren Newsom is back with analysis. And Darren, nice to see the grains all close back to the plus side after some weakness during the session on Thursday. But it looks like when we get these pullbacks, end users come in to buy, right?
It's certainly what it looks like, Michelle. I mean, we drop corn, soybeans down, and we uncover the commercial buying. So this is where things are really getting interesting. We know non-commercial traders have been, the funds have been interested in just moving to the sidelines, corn, wheat, probably a bit in soybeans as well. And so now once that's happened, and then we get these sell-offs, the commercial buying just seems to be waiting down there. And so that's usually that's a bit of a bullish sign for the markets. We've seen both the corn and soybean basis stabilize for the most part.
So do you think in corn and beans in particular, there's much upside here? Do you have to get prices very much higher before that end user buying kind of shuts off?
No, I don't think it takes much. In corn, we've seen the December contract basically establish a $4 to $4.40 range. And I think it's going to be comfortable with that maybe for a year or so. Who knows? Things are always changing, but corn likes to move sideways, and it seems to be establishing that range. The thing with soybeans is at Wednesday evening, we saw the national soybean index come in at 919, which put the available stocks to use, and remember the available stocks to use, at 19%. This was the largest since August 2020. So we know there's plenty of supplies to meet demand.
What about the funds? Are they stepping to the side? Are they selling and the commercial buying is just overwhelming them, or what's going on?
It was interesting in the funds, particularly if we watch the corn and the hardwood winter, the Kansas City hardwood winter wheat markets, because last Friday's commitment to traders report, and again, legacy futures only, showed that they had actually overshot the sidelines. They'd been moving to the sidelines now for quite some time, just getting out of both long and short futures. And then all of a sudden they overshot. And in both markets, they wound up with net long futures. So from last Tuesday to this previous Tuesday, we saw pretty good sell-off in both markets as funds were moving to the sidelines. And I think that's where they want to be.
Thanks so much, Darren Newsom with Bar Charts, and we'll have more AgDay coming up.
To get in touch with Darren, send him an email at analysis@darrennewsom.com or give him a call at 402-669-0210.
Drought monitor just got released today, and some of the big changes we're starting to see is more of those drought, moderate and severe starting to creep into parts of the country, especially for our Great Lakes and Midwestern states as well. Take a look at Indiana, really starting to be fairly dry with that severe drought moving in from parts of Ohio. Ohio still unfortunately going to be very dry with that extreme and even exceptional drought pretty much in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. They're moving out west, so we can still see very, very dry. We're starting to see that extreme and exceptional dot. Some of the landscape out there, especially out here in Wyoming, starting to see some of those drought conditions really start to flourish. And again, still down south throughout much of the Plains states. Good news is that harvest is underway, but still, we're still seeing some of those water tables being affected by the lack of rainfall in our country. Winter temperature outlook just came out, so let's kind of do a bit of a deep dive into seeing why we're seeing some of the temperatures in the country for this winter. And it's because we're transitioning into La Nina. So pretty much what we're going to be seeing is more warmer temperatures, especially for the southern parts of our country. We're talking all the way from the Four Corners all the way up the East Coast. They're pretty much splitting Indiana and Michigan in half. And also going to be seeing cooler temperatures start to move in from the north and in Canada to our more northwestern states as well. So something to kind of keep a definite eye on for this winter. Now for precipitation, we're pretty much going to flip that almost. We're going to be seeing a lot of precipitation, above average amounts of wetter precipitation, especially for the Midwestern states. And again, out west. But take a look at that. This is going to correlate once again with those warmer temperatures, actually, where we'll be seeing those cooler levels of precipitation. Something to, of course, keep in mind. Erie, Pennsylvania, high of 64 degrees, low of 45 degrees. Everett, Washington, we're going to be having some showers today off and on. 53 degrees, low of just 2 degrees cooler than that of 51. And Peachtree City, Georgia, 69-42.
A look at some of the latest innovations in autonomy. Smart Farming Friday is next. And later, the fight against weeds is getting help from technology. We'll hop in the cab as an Illinois farmer takes on water hemp in the country. More companies are going all in on autonomy. Sabanto is working to develop retrofit kits to convert existing tractors into autonomous machines. The company's CEO telling Farm Journal that rather than buying a new tractor with the latest autonomy features, farmers should first explore upgrading their current machines. Installation of Sabanto's retrofit autonomous tractor kit is now available on John Deere's 5E and 6E series, as well as Kubota and Fendt models. And John Deere's 2025 class of machines is showcasing more factory-installed autonomy features. Farm Journal's Matthew Grassi says one key development recently is the release of John Deere's autonomy-ready packages for its tractors and tillage tools. He reports the aftermarket kits include all of the necessary hardware and safety features for autonomous operations, and he says to unlock full autonomy, farmers need to add a perception system, which consists of cameras and vision processing units. In the future, a company official says the perception system will be available alongside its retrofit precision ag technology kits through its own program. Meanwhile, John Deere says it has plans to expand its Reman Core Center facility in Stratford, Missouri. The expansion would add an additional 120,000 square feet. The plant remanufactures parts and components. It says the expansion will break ground in the middle of next year and be completed by the year 2026. It may be fall, but the battle against weeds never ends. Up next, how one producer in Illinois is using technology to save money and use less herbicide today in the country.
Driving Technology on AgDay is brought to you by John Deere. No matter where your operation is with technology, John Deere can help you take the next step. Keep your farm moving forward with John Deere Tech to fit your equipment and your operation.
The biggest battle against weeds in northern Illinois is water hemp, and as farmers try to find new tools to fight it, one farmer was able to do so by using less herbicides this year, as Farm Journal's Tyne Morgan shows us in Driving Technology.
I've watched down the rows and I keep looking to see if there's any green weeds or anything I missed.
As Dan Hartman is in the rush of harvest,
There's a pretty big risk because those weeds that'll really sap your yield, pulling all that moisture, and especially on a dry year like this.
he's also scoring how good he was at controlling the heavy weed pressure that they saw this year. And with such a mild fall without many doses of rain, Hartman says the rhythm of harvest hasn't seen many delays.
Corn yield is surprisingly well for being as dry as a year we've had. We got in early. Corn yields are, I'd say, above average, so I'm very, very impressed. Bean yields are coming in right at average. I think everything kind of ran out of water.
The Hartman's farm spans across 5,500 acres of row crops and 7,000 head of hogs. 4 generations have farmed here, and it's Hartman who's always looking at what's next.
The last couple years, we've just now got into a self-propelled sprayer as of 4 years ago. We were looking to upgrade it because we saw the benefit in having a big self-propelled sprayer. To put it in perspective, we went from a 60-foot pull behind to a 120-foot self-propelled. So it was quite the leap that we made.
Knowing a brand new sprayer was out of their price range for this year, they opted for a 2018 sprayer that had the ExactApply nozzles with See & Spray.
I wasn't sure how to use it on our own farm. I didn't know how much it was going to be, how much our weed pressure was, because we've always just broadcasted things. And what impressed me was it didn't matter what I did, the See & Spray worked just like it's supposed to. I mean, it saw the weeds and it sprayed it.
Just like other farmers, it all comes down to dollars per acre.
So I actually ran the numbers already, and if I only used it on bean acres, it would pay for itself in a year and a half, based off data that we collected this year. I mean, that alone speaks volumes of what it's worth. And so that was really impressive.
Calculating the impact, Hartman says in one field alone, the savings was in the several $1,000s range.
We had a field of beans pretty far south of here, and I ran 2 residual passes, and then I came back a third time with just the See & Spray. We were spraying Liberty, and so a Liberty cost per acre is pretty high. But that field alone saved us over $8,000 in chemicals because I only sprayed 18% of the field, and it was a 200-acre field.
The biggest battle with weeds in this area of Illinois is water hemp, and it's a yearly battle, one that can be hard to stay on the offense with.
From the cab, you're driving down the road, you can't see all the weeds it's spraying, and that's a game I would play. Is as I'm driving across, you see a weed from the cab, it's about this big. It's like, all right, so I watch it go by the boom, and sure enough, it sprays it. But then it's spraying all these other things. I'm like, I don't know what it's seeing, but it's seeing something. I mean, we had really good coverage, so I was impressed.
With commodity prices hovering where they are today, every dollar counts on Hartman's farm. And so he says he has to be smart about every investment.
We're getting to the point where we're scrapping to save every dollar per acre or grow more bushels to counter off or offset the price of it. Our margins are getting tighter, so we got to find a way to make better use of our equipment.
And his harvest revealed the final result with what we'd survived and what didn't. Hartman is excited about what the cameras and machine learning with See and Spray can actually do.
I haven't really thought about what's next or the next. I mean, that See and Spray was a pretty big leap for us, so it's encouraging to see it pan out. You know, so it makes us excited for the future. It's like, what else could we do, you know, to take that next leap? So we just keep doing research.
All right, thanks, Tyne, and that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.